All right. Hi, I'm Sandy Webb with Profit Franchise Partners, and welcome to my YouTube series, The Franchise Fit. One thing that I've noticed over the years is that people generally know what direction they want to go with life and their investment goals, but for whatever reason, they seem a little stuck. So I'm really excited about our conversation today because we're going to talk about those fears that get people stuck and the reasons why they don't move forward. So I am joined today by Alex DelCollo, Brody Scott from Diamond State Financial Group, and they're going to talk to us about the challenges and concerns that they hear every day from their clients. And the reason I'm excited to talk about this is because I hear the same exact concerns when I'm working with my clients. So today we're going to talk about the fears that prevent people from moving forward. We're going to talk about the cost of waiting and waiting for certainty that may not ever come. Then we're going to talk about how to move into confidence, from uncertainty to confidence in investing. And then finally, we're going to get some great nuggets of advice from Alex and from Brody. So let's jump in. And could you tell our viewers a bit about yourselves?
Yeah, so my name is Brody Scott. I've been born and raised in Delaware. I did go away to school in Vermont for a little bit, but COVID took me back home. I've been lucky enough to work with Alex here at Diamond State for almost a year now.
And my name is Alex DelCollo. I'm also a comprehensive financial planner here at Diamond State. And my background is actually in behavior. And so this is a very interesting topic for me because there's a lot of psychology wrapped up in a lot of these concerns that people have, especially around money. So I'm very excited to talk about this today.
Awesome. Well, let's get started then with our very first question. So when somebody first comes to you, what are the most common fears and concerns that they express?
Yeah, so I think the number one fear and concern that I hear is I don't feel like I have enough, right? So and it's varies for every client is going to be different, but what is enough to people is only something that they can answer. I find that to be a common one for me.
Yeah, that definitely is something that we hear a lot. One of the other things that we hear a lot of the times is that people are afraid of losing money. They feel like investing sometimes is more like gambling than it is strategic. And I think it's really important distinction to make is the difference between being strategic with those investments versus something that feels like a bet on something. And then another part that I find a lot of people bringing up is they feel like they've already missed an opportunity. And so what's the point now?
Yeah.
And there's always a point in trying to be strategic in investing in something for additional growth. There's always additional growth opportunities. So those are probably three additional fears that I encounter with a lot of folks.
So the fear of losing money, the fear of making a wrong decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to losing money versus gaining money, that is actually a psychological barrier because it's called loss aversion. People are more afraid of losing something than they are of gaining something. And it's a survival instinct. But there's the challenge in avoiding all of that risk in that potential loss can create its own risk, right? So you have to keep up with inflation. And if you're not keeping up with inflation, that can severely impact your overall financial health because you have such loss aversion.
Interesting. Well, I think we're going to dig into that a little bit more in some of our next questions. I definitely want to get to hear more about that. And I see why, being in a behavioralist also really is fascinating when you pair that with investment and investment fears. So what fears that sound reasonable on the surface may often end up keeping people stuck?
Yeah. Some of the fears that I find that keep people stuck and don't make decisions is that they feel like they need more information. And it is one of the things that more information is not always helpful, because then we can get into this analysis paralysis, right? And so a lot of times I'll ask people, what additional information would help you make this decision?
Mm-hmm.
And that can kind of get them over that, oh, I need more, I need more, I need more. It's more, needing more information is more of a delay tactic, psychologically, in making a hard decision.
Yeah. And do you find that some people will have the information, but maybe spend, like, to that point, too much time, maybe even years delaying? I mean, you see it in that time spectrum, years before they are willing to make that decision?
Yeah, I think there's two sides of the spectrum, right? People either make decisions far too quick, or they wait too long to make the decision that they should have made, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of go hand in hand. I think if you go too far on either side, that's where we're making mistakes.
And to your point, when people are delaying the decision-making process, I hear them a lot of times say, well, I'm just going to wait until what? I'm going to wait until next year. I'm going to wait until I get my next job. I'm going to wait until the market goes down. I'm going to wait until, and they just keep delaying that decision. Because they're afraid. They're afraid to take that risk, that first step. And it's a natural fear to have. We all have it, right? But it's making strategic decisions despite some of that fear in a risk-controlled way to the amount of risk that you're comfortable with. I think people forget that too. We don't have to be all in. We can be risk controlled at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue as we start talking about the next section of our conversation is really about the cost of waiting. And and when it comes to having all of the information you need, of course, we want to do great research. We want to learn as much as we can reasonably. But then at some point, you have enough information, kind of like on a balancing scale. At what point do you have enough to actually make a proper decision? So let's talk about what's that cost of waiting while you're looking for more certainty. What are some of the losses that you've seen?
I mean, I think at the most basic level, the first, money that you do invest, and historically speaking, over the longest time, will be the most valuable to you. So if we're waiting to invest, waiting for the right circumstances or what feels right to us, you are losing out on any opportunity that's happening right now, right?
And to go off of that, what I like to remind people is that you can spend a lot of time looking for the perfect time to invest. But the problem is that no perfect time exists except for in hindsight. Right? And so while you're waiting for that perfect time that never exists, to Brody's point, you are missing out on everything that is happening that is a positive thing during that time. And the only thing that we have that makes the biggest difference is time. And so I say it to a lot of contractors, right? If you are a quarter of an inch off over a foot, that doesn't make a huge difference. But if you take that quarter of an inch over a mile, that's a huge difference. And so if you think of that mile in time and that little investment of that quarter of an inch over a foot versus a mile, right? You have this huge impact.
And like you said, I mean, hindsight is 20/20. So I meet a lot of clients who are reluctant because they feel like the timing isn't quite perfect. I don't have as much money saved up as I had wanted to, or you and I, all three of us attended a speaker presentation on the impact of midterm elections. I'm going to wait until we're in a different political cycle. And in the reality, all of that is just noise, because when everything, as you say, over time, it almost becomes like this elusive thing, right? And so I do have a lot of clients who will hold off on making that investment, and they don't have the crystal ball to see all the other things that are going on. But so I could definitely relate to that. So what are some of the common misconceptions that you come across with your clients about the timing and certainty?
I think right now, as we're talking, do see new all-time highs in markets. I think a lot of people get skittish about that, right? Because of the cycle that occurs within markets themselves. That's one that I've seen more recently, but I'm sure you've seen others.
The biggest one comes back to time, right? And one of the best quotes I can give you for this is we always say time in the market, not timing the market, right? So we're not looking for the best time to enter or exit, because when we do that, people think that they're making good conscious decisions, but they're actually making decisions based off of emotion and scarcity and fear. And that is not how we should be making these decisions. We should be making them based off of what we want and what our goals are. But when we start trying to time the market moving in and out in various capacities, we can actually miss the best days. And when you miss just a few of the best days in the market, the difference is astronomical. And there are studies that have shown exactly how much you end up missing out just being out of the market for 10 of the best days, which often happen in a flash of a pan, and you've already missed it because you're out.
Yeah. That, and I'm sure that hurts. That stings. I'm sure you've had to have some unpleasant conversations with clients that have missed out and, are upset.
Well, a lot of times you don't realize how much you missed out until way later, right? So this compounding effect with time, it may only seem like a small percentage in the moment, but that small percentage unable to compound over that longer period of time really ends up making a huge difference and can impact people's long-term plans in retirement and in a very significant way.
Yeah, and actually that already answers my next question, which was really going to be about experiences that you've had with clients and seeing that the impact that they have to process when they realize that they held off and now it's too late on at least that particular event that happened. So I don't know if you also have had clients where you've had to.
I think a lot of our job is kind of helping to coach, right? Holding hands and helping understand. I understand that it might not look great today, but you need to be able to trust our professional, accreditations here. Just stick with us for a little bit, and you will see the difference, right? So I think that's a big part of it. The compounding piece is really interesting. I think earlier you spoke about keeping up with inflation, right? If we keep all of our cash under our mattress, we are losing a lot of money by doing that.
Yeah.
Right. So the compounding effect is real in time and whatever investment you might be looking at making or considering. Right?
Well, one of the analogies I make when I know that I'm delaying a decision for the wrong reasons, and I know that it's either it's emotional or I'm feeling inadequate somehow, that I'm feeling like there's an intellectual challenge or some other type of challenge that I personally am overwhelmed by or can't overcome. My signal is I start moving papers around my desk. That's my sign that I'm delaying for something that that I have an avoidance issue with. So what are some of the avoidance issues that you see in people, the things that they do that signal that they're really trying to delay for the wrong reason when they really have enough information?
I think everybody's different, right? It's going to take a lot of introspection. When you're working with a client for a longer time, you might start to understand these signals more. But oftentimes people aren't as perceptive or forthcoming as you might be, knowing what your avoidance techniques are. So sometimes we need to learn from time. But I think everybody has their own way of dealing with things, and whether it is like, something crazy came up, I have an emergency, I won't be able to do this, or, whatever it might be. I mean, there's a litany of things that people can come up with to avoid.
To that point, everyone is different in showing or their tells on why or the fact that they are avoiding something. And one thing that I find to be extremely helpful, not just in that process, but in the entire process, is always ask more questions, because they may not even know that they're doing it. They may not even know that they're stuck. And by asking more questions, they may have a self-realization as well. And then the other piece is, we always take an educational approach to everything. And we will tell people, if you do not understand what we are recommending, I don't want you to do it. I need you to have the confidence and understanding in making this decision for yourself.
Yeah.
Because when people feel confident and comfortable, that's when they make good decisions, sound decisions, and they're all in with it. And they're okay if things fluctuate a little bit, because they believe in what they're doing and why they're doing it, right? And so if we're able to build that with them, then a lot of times we can not totally avoid some of the hard decisions being made, but circumvent some of these barriers, or challenge some of these barriers, or work through some of these barriers that they have around that decision-making process.
So one of the things that makes me think about is the level of certainty, because the reality is that they're going to gather information, they're going to fact check, but I think that certainty, complete certainty, is elusive, and it's something that people will chase after, but they'll never get there, because you wouldn't have risk if we had perfect certainty, right? So that is just how investments go, whether they're financial investments or investment in a business. There's always uncertainty. So let's talk about, like, how do your clients move from that uncertainty into certain enough to have confidence in the process and in what they're hearing from you? So what do you feel helps your clients move from one to the other?
So first things first, you said it, right? Nothing is guaranteed. Life isn't guaranteed, right? And so instead of looking for that certainty, what we need to focus on is making informed decisions and build a plan that then adapts as life changes, because life is going to change. And if you think that the plan that you have written down today isn't immediately, like, no longer relevant, then you've not lived enough, right? Because we've all had best laid plans. You wake up in the morning, you think you're going to do this. Well, this morning I woke up at 6:30 and did not think I was going to have to give my dog a bath, right? That was not the plan I had for my day. But you make the adaptations based on how life goes, because it's not a set it, forget it either.
Yeah.
It is something that is going to morph and change over time, and we have to adjust with it. And if we can set that expectation ahead of time, I think that alleviates a lot of the angst too, to say, yeah, life is going to change. The plan that we had laid out looks good now, but maybe irrelevant tomorrow. We may have to plan all over again, and that's okay, because we know that.
Yes. Any of us who got through COVID know. We all know.
What an example.
I know people still don't like to hear about, like, I'm over COVID. I don't want to hear how COVID impacted everything. But the reality is that was a pivotal time when nobody had that planned, and yet we all found a way to adapt. So how about you, Brody? How do you help somebody to navigate through that type of change from uncertainty to certain enough?
Yeah, no, I think the educational aspect is massive, right? Almost feels like sometimes 90% of my job is just breaking down concepts and making it understanding, right? The financial world, there's so many products and so many theories and so much academia surrounding it. A lot of, if you tune into, one of the money channels on TV, right? I mean, there's like a million things going on the screen at once.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just making sure that we're able to understand it, be on the same page, but truly understand it. And I think it builds confidence in kind of moving forward and saying, well, I think this does make sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you're able to take the next step.
And in your world, what does a healthy decision-making process look like?
So we actually work through what the CFP has outlined for us, right? That's one of our accreditations, is the Certified Financial Planner.
Mm-hmm.
And so we utilize a lot of that framework to help walk through each of our clients through the process. And really, we're talking about identifying goals. We're talking about gathering information.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about evaluating the options that we have available to us. We're talking about building a plan that aligns with those goals that we've outlined.
Yeah.
And then we take steps to implement that plan.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't stop there, right? What did I say before? We have to then review and adjust and adapt to life changing.
Yeah.
And so that's really the process that we take every person through,
Mm-hmm.
that ultimately, hopefully, leads in them to feeling comfortable and confident in making a decision on the recommendations that we have for them.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, I mean, that literally is the mirror for the process that I walk my clients through as well. Just a lot of upfront conversations and in-depth discussions about them, their goals, their lifestyle, that their long-term vision that they have for themselves and their family. And then really understanding from there, what are the vehicles, in my world, the franchise vehicles that can help get them there, and then all of the validation of whether or not it actually fits and makes sense on their path forward. So it sounds like it's a mirror image of each other. So
because I think it works,
yes,
right?
Right.
It's a process that helps people, and because of that, it makes sense that we be doing very similar processes because it works.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad that we can see that
It
works. So, do you, looking at your successful investors that you've worked with, is it that they're inherently different from other investors, or do they just get comfortable over time with the uncertainty that comes with making investments?
I would say it compounds with time. Like much of the conversation we're having, right? Small successes lead to larger successes, and that's how confidence has grown, right? And a relationship that you have with someone where you can trust them and understand, I will take your word for it, right? I will take your advice. I think that's what leads to ultimately the biggest difference probably between those more successful investors and those maybe not as successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other things that I've seen with successful investors is not necessarily having less fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's understanding that the success is long term, right? This is not a short term process, and they do build momentum, but also they're trusting the process.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at what happens in the market every single day, you're going to have half a heart attack every single day, right? We have some days where inside the day, we're down 7%, but at the end of the day, we're back up.
Yeah.
And so what we like to say a lot of the times is, if you pay attention to every single day, you're going to get lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what you don't realize is, while you're watching the yo-yo go up and down, you are slowly climbing a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And so the yo-yo is going up the mountain. But if all you're focusing on is zoomed in on those day-to-day volatility and what's happening, your fear is going to be emphasized, and that fearful flame is going to be fed.
Yeah.
Until it becomes uncontrollable, and then we're trying to manage emotions, right? And that's really what a lot of this is about, is managing those emotions around these decisions.
Yeah, and that's what I say for my clients too. Like my goal is to help slow things down, not be in a reactive mode where we're just trying to just keep going. Like let's slow down and look at this whole bigger picture here. So I think really, to summarize a lot of what we've already talked about, what we're trying to achieve is not eliminating risk. It's really about developing a process that our clients can work through, so that they can move forward with confidence and know that adapting as they go is part of the process. So let's kind of glide into then the culmination of everything that we've said so far, which is, it's natural for people to feel a little bit stuck, to have fears around investing, just because of the inherent risk. And quite frankly, a lot of the noise that comes at people on the daily, through the marketplace or the news or friends that might have some great advice. And so give our viewers some of your worldly advice on how to help them get unstuck when they're trying to make financial changes, moving towards a goal, but they just can't get themselves off the sideline.
I think it comes down to making simple changes, nothing drastic overnight, right? It's like quitting smoking cold turkey, maybe the patches work or the gum, but I think moving the needle just very slightly in small ways, right? Whenever I sit down with one of my clients and really present a plan, right? Recommendations. We both know through our discussion, there's probably closer to 100 things that we could do, right?
Yeah.
But let's pick maybe 3 or 4 and just start there. Start small, but be consistent. That I think is good advice for me.
So if we're trying to get people unstuck, which I think a lot of times is because people just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Or they're trying to do too much at once, or they're trying to make it perfect. Is that progress always beats perfection. And it's these small steps over time that really make a difference. And so just pick one thing. What is one thing that you can do today that's going to move you forward? It can be scheduling a meeting with financial planner or somebody to see if a franchise is the right thing for you. That is one step. Make that phone call, send that email, right? It can be just saying to yourself, okay, I'm going to set aside $25 a month that I'm going to put into a savings account. That's a step. Right. It doesn't feel massive, but it is those small steps that are going to make that difference over time. So pick one thing and just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Great. Yeah. No, I mean, that's true, because this is a terrible saying. I'm not even sure where this saying came from, but you can't eat an elephant all at once. Yeah. you eat it one bite at a time. I'm sorry for any viewers that
or elephant.
I did. Yes.
You're right.
So really, I mean, this has been a great conversation, because I think it resonates really for so many people and so many aspects of life, because really we're talking about investments, financial, business opportunities. But the reality is that this could apply to any major decision that you're making in life. It could be a career change. It could be a move of some sort, but you have to start somewhere. And kind of slowing down the process and finding an expert, finding somebody, a trusted advisor that you can start with is a great first step. So really, it's not about having all the answers and having uncertainty just removed off of the table, because life is uncertain. It's just everything about life is uncertain. So it's really more about asking the questions, gathering the information, learning what you can, to determine whether or not the next step is going to make sense for you. So true of investing, business ownership, other life changes. So I hope today that for our viewers that they've walked away with these nuggets that can really help them, especially if you're a viewer that you're feeling a bit stuck and on the sidelines. Hopefully we're helping to give you a different perspective, a different lens to look through. So Alex and Brody, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your experience and your perspective. And to any of our viewers out there, if you are looking at making financial investments, Alex and Brody are here for you. If you're looking for business opportunities, and want to determine whether or not that might be a option that's going to fit with your goals, your lifestyle, and your long-term vision, any one of the three of us are here for you, and we're happy to have that conversation. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on The Franchise Fit.